it's Brijin, the Museum Stitcher, here on Flosstube, but also over on Instagram, Ravelry, and Goodreads, all under the same name. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, this is my little corner of the internet where I talk about my crafting life, mostly about cross stitch. But today I also have quite a few books to share with you and just some exciting chit chat. It's been 3 weeks since I last filmed, so for those of you returning, welcome back. I hope you're excited to talk today. Today we're going to be covering a couple of things, including the very fun sale that my friends and I have been conducting this month called the Pink February sale. I wore my pink sweater and some pink earrings, all in honor of that. We're also going to be chatting through my market wish list because I'm super excited for that coming up next week. And we're also going to be chatting a lot of books because my reading bug has come back. So if you like things like crafting, reading, all those kinds of things, I hope you'll stick around, like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. Tell me hi. I love hearing from you guys. And yeah, let's get into it, shall we? So let's start today off with a couple of previous fully finishes. So the last couple of weeks, I have been in kind of a fully finished frenzy, and I finished two more things that I wanted to share with you guys today. The first one is one of my oldest finishes that is not fully finished yet. If you are new to cross-stitch terminology, an FFO, or a fully finished object, is when you take a cross-stitch and you turn it into something. Like if you frame it or make it into a pillow or a wall hanging or whatever you do with that cross stitch once you're done. And so I've had this piece finished with the stitching for years and I haven't turned it into anything yet. I'm super excited. This is Sister Suffragette by Summer House Stitchworks. I finished this in early January of 2022. It's now February, It's now late February of 2024. But I couldn't decide what I wanted to do with this. So I've had this for a while, but I haven't figured out what I wanted to do with it. I had originally cut it down and sewn it into a front panel for a project bag, but then I decided I loved the piece too much that I wanted it on display more than just on a project bag. And I remembered that I had this quilting fabric with suffragette themes that my friend Megan of the Seattle Stitcher here on Flosstube had sent me a long time ago, probably like a year and a half ago. And so I decided to get this frame off of Amazon. It's like a 8x18, I think, frame. I wanted it to have a lot of margin to show this quilting fabric. And so I framed the fabric in the frame. And then my friend Maddie of Kitty Stitch recommended that I fray the linen because I'd already cut it down so much that I couldn't mount it on any board. And so I frayed the linen on the edges like she suggested, and then just like tacked it down with a little bit of glue on top of that fabric. And I am so obsessed with how it turned out. It looks so pretty. I do wish like I had a little bit more contrast between the fabric and the linen, but totally fine. So I stitched this on a 32 count smoky white, vintage smoky white, or just smoky white, linen by Zweigart, one of those two, with all the called for floss except for the doves I did in gray because my fabric was so light. And then I used an étoile for the lettering. I don't know if you can see the sparkles. I think so. So it's a little sparkly, but yeah. I love this piece so much. I originally saw this as a model in my LNS, the Stitch Niche in Arlington, and I stitched it after my first time visiting there. And I love it. I love it so much. I am so happy with how this turned out. So thank you, Maddie. If you have not checked out Maddie of Kitty Stitch on Instagram, definitely go check her out. She is a genius. And this is so cool. I can't wait to put a little hanger on this and hang it up in my craft room. Let me put that there. Okay. And the second fully finish that I've done is also another framed one. This is Bayun Cat by Alforst Embroidery. If you've followed me for a while, you've seen this a lot. But this is a custom frame that I had built at Michael's, and then I laced it and popped it in there. And I need to cut a piece of foam core to stick behind there just to cover the lacing. But I am pretty proud of how that came out as well. I stitched this with the called for Owl Forest Embroidery flosses on their kit fabric, and I finished this last year in 2023 in the summer, I believe. And it's just a Russian folktale cat. It's so cute. So that is the other one that I got framed. I'm trying to empty out my project roll where I keep my finishes before I turn them into things, because it's getting a little too full in there. On the mantle behind me, that is Love Gaze by Modern Folk Embroidery, and that is the scissor sampler by Tell and Emblem, in case you're curious. And now we'll move on to what I actually stitched. So like you guys may know if you've been following me, I have a lot of goals that I'm trying to get through with my stitching this year, and I am loving it. So we're going to segment the 5 projects that I worked on since I talked to you last into goals. So let's start off with WIPGO, shall we? So if you've not heard of WIPGO before, it is the brainchild of Jessie Marie Does Stuff here on Flosstube, and it is a WIP rotation system akin to bingo, where every month 2 numbers are called and you pick projects from your stash ahead of time or whatever you choose. When the numbers are called, I have projects on my squares, but I have not made goals for those projects so that I can customize my goals to the month based on my bandwidth and all of those kinds of things. So this month, my 2 WIPGO calls were Real Comfort by Modern Folk Embroidery and Oh Joyous Day by Blackbird Designs, which I am so happy with because these were also projects that I wanted to work on for Pink February. So my friends and I are hosting a stitch along for the month of February. Obviously February's not over yet, where we work on projects with Pink. And so I really, really wanted to work on my Pink on Pink project. This is a picture of what this looked like last time. This is Real Comfort by Modern Folk Embroidery. And I was sitting at about 18% on this the last time that you saw it in my beginning of the year WIP parade. And this is a monochromatic sampler that I have turned pink. And I decided that I was going to push through and finish it. And gosh darn it, I did. So this is what it looks like now. It's gonna wash me out like crazy because this is so beautiful. But this is a color combination originally picked out by my friend Cam the Stitcher. Cam is a color genius. And when she started stitching her Beatrix Potter Quaker sampler in this monochromatic combination, I had to copy her because it was so beautiful. And I could not be happier with the project that I chose to do it with or the end result. So since I picked this up, I worked on this for 10 stitchy sessions and I did 6,898 stitches to get it finished. So that's a lot. I certainly felt like I worked on this exclusively for a long time, but it also was just so easy to work on that I could not stop. And the last time I talked to you about this project, I was thinking about just cutting off the bottom of the alphabet, like just doing the capital alphabet. But I realized that it's probably gonna be cheaper to frame if it was a square. So what I did is I ended up stitching the whole thing. So I didn't save myself any stitching on this one, but it's a finish. So, you know, that's totally fine. The only alteration I made on this chart was to swap the date on this side to 2024. Just using the included numbers down here. And this is a quote from Emma, I believe. It's a Jane Austen sampler. And I love it. I'm so happy with how this came out. I don't think I told you what this was. This is 40 count Peony linen by Fiber on a Whim. It is, this is true to color. The floss is a little bit lighter in person than it's showing up here. This is Dinky Dyes Silk in the shade Pink Tourmaline. And I just love it. I am so happy to have this finished. I don't quite know what kind of frame I'm going to go for this. If I want like maybe a silver or a gold frame. I might even want like a little bit of matting on this just because it's so bold. Like I want it to shine. I don't want it to get lost on the edge of the frame, but this is my one finish that I got in this month, but it's an appropriate pink February finish, I think. Yeah, so that is everything that I wanted to share about this. Started this on April 5th of 2023, and I finished it on February 16th of 2024. So got it done in under a year, which is super exciting. Okay, so that was my first WIPGO goal. So I finished that. My goal is to finish the first WIPGO call by the 15th of the month, and I was basically on track with that, at least in like the first rough half of the month. So I was on track with that there, but my second WIPGO call I actually just finished last night. So the timing was kind of perfect. But my second call was Oh Joyous Day by Blackbird Designs. And I will pop up a picture somewhere here of where I was the last time I showed it to you, which I believe was Flosstube 35, or it might have been the last one, I'm not sure. I will put that info on the screen. But this is a project I wanted to work on in Pink February anyway, because there is that gorgeous pink house in the center of this sampler, and I figured I could try and get that in. My WIPGO goal on this one that I set for myself was to get the project to 50%, which would have been about 2,700 stitches, and I'm happy to report that I did it. I worked on this for 3 stitching sessions. And this is on a 40 count Nessie linen by Picture This Plus with all the called for threads. And I am so obsessed. So I started off by doing some of this alphabet down here, and then I stitched this whole funky bird and this little vase and these letters and a couple doodads. And then I started in on the pink house. And I didn't get it completed. I still have to finish out the windows. But I think I got a pretty good chunk of that in, and I'm really proud of my progress. So this now sits at 50%. I believe there's only 6,800 stitches left to get it done. So I'm hoping I can get this finished this year. I want this displayed so bad. The colors are so beautiful. Yeah, it's just too good. So I started this on February 23rd of last year, and this also had its WIP birthday this month, so I was already planning on working on it, and its WIP birthday, I believe, was yesterday, and I worked on it and got in my goal. So that's a very exciting WIP birthday progress update for this one. I am keeping this project in a Tiger Lily Designs project keeper. I don't know why I blanked on that. I bought this one from Carrie, so Carrie made this one. And that was my needle minder falling out. It's from Mad Reminders that I keep on this one. But I was ironing a different project this morning, and I figured I'd go ahead and iron the whips I was talking about while I had my iron out. But I keep all of my flosses on Adam Hart thread bobbins that are actually floss drops. They just look like bobbins. And I was able to color complete 3 colors, so I put those back on their original floss tags, and then I keep my pattern back here and my hoop as well when I'm working on it. So this is going to be going away for a little bit. I don't know how long, but for the month of March I have some other goals that I need to focus on, so it's probably not going to get a lot of work, but progress is progress, and 50% on a project that I believe was under 10% started at the beginning of this year feels really, really good to me. So those are my 2 WIPGO calls for the month. WIPGO is completed for me for the month of February, and I'm really excited to see what ends up being pulled in March. I have not heard the March numbers yet, so I think I'm in the clear there. At least I haven't heard anything as of today, Saturday. And yeah, so before we go into my general monthly goals, let's do a new start. So I had my first official new start of 2024 this month, which is very exciting because at this point last year I had already started 5 things, and at this point this year I've only started 1. So I'm feeling really, really good, and I don't feel like I'm missing out or that I've limited myself. Like, I still feel really, really good. So I'm very excited, but I did decide to start Needlework by Kathy Barrick. I've loved this chart since I saw it as a model at my LNS. And the reason that I started this was because I was going on a road trip to celebrate my little brother's birthday. My family and I met him halfway. He lives in Austin, we live in Fort Worth. And so we met halfway in Waco to have lunch and celebrate his birthday on a weekend. And I wanted a project that I could bring in the car that had fill-in and that I wanted to do on an easy fabric. And I didn't have anything in my stash that wouldn't require me bringing a lot of floss or my iPad to use markup. And I just wanted something easy for car stitching. And so I decided to start this. And I started in the center so I could start on that beautiful spool of thread. And this is where I got to. So it still fits with Pink February. I'm doing a color conversion for this. So I started this on, let me pull up my information. Started this on February 9th, and I'm stitching it on 20 count brown sugar Aida by Fiber on a Whim with my own stash conversion that I'll show you here in a second to some pinks. This only has 3 colors called for: a white that's just used in these words, a brown and a contrast color here for everything else, and then a silver is used just to put a needle in this spool. So it's a really, really easy stash conversion. I decided to do all color and cottons just because that's what I have the most in my stash. And so for the pink, I am using the color Velveteen, which is it's like a rusty salmon color. So it's a little bit orangey, a little bit red, and my brown is black walnut. So these two will make up the majority of the piece. And then I just have a color and cotton white to do those words. And I'll pull a strand of like a silver DMC or something for the needle when I'm all finished. But in my 2 days that I worked on this, I got 1,600 stitches in, which puts this at about 32.7% complete. So I just have about 3,500 stitches left. This is also going to travel with me to market next week because I'm just gonna work a little bit and get these scissors outlined. And this border with the stars is super repetitive and will be really, really easy to work on in the airport or if there's any, I doubt there's gonna be any stitching time at market, but just in case. I just love 20 count Aida. I think it looks really, really great. The coverage with one strand is fantastic. And I love the variegation on that thread, the velveteen on the spool. It actually gives it like a texture that looks like wound thread. And yeah, so that was my start. I know it wasn't really one of the starts I had talked about doing this month, but I finished 2 projects in January, and so this was my reward start. And it's very small. I think it could be a finish by the end of March, depending on what my other priorities are. But yeah, that's Needlework by Kathy Barrick. I'm so obsessed with it. Okay, next up, let's talk my monthly goals. These are the projects that in general I am working on every month to try and get progress or a finish by the end of the year, depending on the project. So starting off for Pink February, the Vanity sampler also fits. So this is a Vanity sampler by Hello from Liz Mathews. I'm working on this every month, trying to get about 1,776 stitches in order to get it finished by the end of the year. And this month I worked on border, which is very, very exciting. This is what it looked like the last time that you saw it. In my last video that I shared this one, which was Flosstube number 36, I was sitting at 13.3% or just about 3,000 stitches out of the grand total of 22,500. And I started this on August 21st of 2023. So for February, this is what we're looking like. I did a grand total of 8.1% or 1,800 stitches. It's now sitting at 21.4%, so almost a quarter of the way through the piece. It's sitting at 4,791 stitches done. I am stitching mine with my beautiful friend Cam's DMC conversion. This is the Victorian Goth Vanity sampler that she came up with. It's an all DMC conversion on a 40 count spilled coffee linen by XJuDesigns, which is incredible. Let me get you up close on this bad boy. So this month I started here and I worked the border all the way up and all the way across, and then started filling in the little flowers in the border as I went. So next month in March, my plan is to finish out the flowers on the top here and pull the border down, and then start filling in this top section. So up here, there's a line of motifs and then the giant quote, which I'm very excited about. I don't think I'll hit the quote until April though, so gonna have to wait there. But I am so excited and so happy with my progress on this one. Let's see, I worked for this one. This was 3 stitchy sessions, which is super manageable. I really love breaking this ginormous sampler up into chunks. It's really been nice to see it grow month by month and to know that I really am working towards a tangible finish without really breaking my bank calendar-wise. I don't feel like I'm devoting all my time to this, but I know it's gonna get done. So I love that. This is the Vanity sampler. I keep this one in a project bag from the Painted Leaf Company. And this is my needle minder. It's from Top Knot Stitcher, and those are some of the DMCs in there. This is a Jane Austen fabric, and it's pink and gorgeous, so I had to use that for my Vanity sampler. So that is the update on that one. 1 monthly goal down, along with my WIPGOs. And that is the full piece of linen here. So super excited about having that one done again. And then I only worked on one more project in the last couple of weeks, and that is my Song of the Nightingale by Modern Folk Embroidery. This is my other monthly goal piece that gets a lot of attention. And I'm trying to do 2,000 stitches every month on this to get the finish by the end of December of this year. I'm stitching this with Paper Crane Stitches on Instagram. She's also working on it, and it is beautiful. And I am doing a pink DMC conversion, so another one that fit perfectly for pink February stitching. And this is what it looked like the last time that you saw it. I was sitting at 9.1% in Flosstube number 35, about 2,000 stitches. Again, 2,000 stitches every month. So my goal is to get this to 4,000 by the end of this month, and I did. So this is now sitting at 16.8%, or a little over 4,000 stitches done. And I went through and I finished out the top border, and I can't remember which side. I think I did this side, all the way down, including the border, and then I closed the outer border of the entire piece. So this is officially the whole size of it, which it looks a lot smaller for being so many stitches, but it's pretty dense. So I know once I get into these interior panels, it's gonna go a lot slower, but I am definitely going to have the decorative border on the outside finished by the end of March, and I'm gonna start in on the next internal straight line border and then start on this panel here closest to me. But I am using 2 colors of pink DMC and 1 color of gold. I'll show those to you now. This is a project bag from Little Boat 88 on Etsy, and these are my floss colors as soon as I get my Wonder Clip off. So I'm using 782 for the gold, 3685 for the dark maroon pink, and 3687 for the lighter pink that almost matches my sweater perfectly. So these 3 together I love. I'm so excited. I cannot wait to see how this turns out as I start getting into it more and more. But at least mapping out the full size of the piece feels really good, and like a pretty good accomplishment for this little bit of stitching. So that is Song of the Nightingale. I started that on December 6th of 2023, and hopefully by December 6th of 2024, I'll have it knocked out. Oh, and I think I forgot to say, this is 36 count heirloom lace linen by Color and Cotton, and I'm just using 1 strand. My preferred for 36 count is 1 strand. And that is all the projects that I worked on. But I do have the slightest bit of haul, and then I figured we would talk market. I really enjoyed talking with my stitchy friends on Instagram about what their market picks are, like what are they interested in buying, what are they pre-ordering. So I figured I'd talk you through mine because I find it really interesting before we get into books today. But first up, I have my color and cotton floss and fabric of the months. The flosses of the month are so beautiful together. I need to find something with 3 colors to use these for. This is Green Heron, Old Brick, and Persimmon. Very like Southwestern a little bit. I love them. This Green Heron color in particular, beautiful. So those are the threads, and then for the fabric, I get 40 count linen, and this month it is a beautiful gold color called Hay Bale Medium. Definitely going to be beautiful for a sampler. Actually, it might be kind of perfect for White Winter Moth by Kathy Barrick. But yeah, definitely like a dark gold color. And then Color and Cotton, I also got a conversion done from them. The folks over at Color and Cotton are so kind and amazing, and they will put together conversions for you upon request. So I had them convert this chart, which is Promise of Spring by Cottage Garden Samplings, that I have had on my wish list because it's charted all in a floss that isn't my favorite to work with. And so I had them put together a conversion for me. There were a couple colors they weren't able to convert, so I just got the called for there, and I might convert them into my stash on my own. But this is the Color and Cottons that they put together for me. So once I sit down and pick out my fabric and start stitching this, I will put together like a little graphic of what the conversion is in case you're interested. But I definitely highly recommend reaching out to them if you want a Color and Cotton conversion, but you cannot go visit their store in person because it's in a different state than you're in, like me. Definitely reach out to them. They were super communicative and super fast, and they did an amazing job. I cannot wait to get some fabric for this guy and get it started. So if you have any recommendations for a good denim-y blue, let me know. I know Billie Jean by Roxy Floss Co. is one, but the Canada shipping right now, like I'm looking for something just a little bit more on the affordable side. That also would get to me a little bit faster. So that is everything for haul. So let's talk market, shall we? So there have been some really beautiful designs. As you guys may or may not know, I am going to market this year to help out my friend Liz of Hello from Liz Mathews. And so Liz's designs are absolutely stunning, and I'm definitely picking up those. My 2 favorites of hers, aside from A Buzz at Midnight that I model stitched, which she photographed it more beautifully than I ever could, is Remember Me, Sampler and Tree, specifically the tree. I'm definitely stitching that. And then Spring House. Liz, Spring House. That is so stunning. I already have Pumpkin House as a whip, which is like the autumnal version of this one, but had to have that. As far as Kathy Barrick, Caught in the Swirl, I have been thinking about this one for a while. Like, I saw it and it's just kind of stuck with me. I love this one. And Vibrant Flowers, which is this gorgeous like pink sampler. But if you notice, there's a cactus and a cat on it, and those 2 things, chef's kiss for me. Those are like, I love it. I love those 2. Then next up is the In Spring Book by Teresa Kogut for the cover sampler. That like bouquet of flowers, and then like there's a cat and a bunny at the bottom, but you know I'm just gonna mirror the cat and do 2 cats. Like, I just love that piece. I think it's so, so beautiful. Like, I need that now. And then Down in the Valley by Annie B's Folk Art. I love how delicate this sampler is, and I cannot wait to start that one. I think several of my friends are also going to be doing that. I just want to find a really, really cool quote to rechart the quote to. And then from Heart and Hand, I'm really interested in Floral Etchings 2. I already have Floral Etchings 1. I haven't started it yet, but number 2 is dare I say, more stunning than number 1. I love it. And then Frosty Tiny Town. I did the Spring Tiny Town, Blooming Tiny Town, I think it's what it's called, last year. And I definitely want to do more tiny towns, and this little snowy village one, so cute. Then Pollinator's Garden by October House Fiber Arts. It's like a long skinny floral pillow. So pretty. I know a lot of people have had their eye on that one, and it looks like a pretty easy finish. So definitely got my eye on that one. And then a couple more. Pollinators, no, I already said that. I can't read apparently. This is a thread pack that's on Top Knots, Abby Top Knot Stitcher. She's where I would have placed my pre-order if I wasn't planning on picking up charts while I'm there. And she has this palette of cottage garden threads that look beautiful. It's called the Alice Stitchers palette, and it's these gorgeous like orange, lavender, and blue colors. And there's one of each, and then one that is all 3 variegated. And I think I'm gonna try and pick that up as well. It's so pretty and delicate, and I think it'd be fun to do a conversion to those colors for something. And then the last chart that I really love, that I actually already own as a magazine from when it was first published, is Friends Are Flowers by Lucy Beam. I love this chart. I think it's so pretty, and I would have picked it up if I didn't already have it. It was a release in the Punch Needle and Primitive Stitcher magazine, I think in a spring issue a while back, and so I already have it there, but would have been on my list for sure. Now I've got a couple others that I like love, but I'm either going to wait for the PDF to come out, or I'm just going to wait until I'm ready to stitch it to purchase. And those are Mellow Yellow by the Artsy Housewife. I love this. I think it's so pretty. Then Pine Tree Chalet by Blueberry Ridge Designs. Blueberry Ridge has several designs that I'm really into right now, but this one is so cute. It's like a little winter situation, Christmassy situation. Looks like a snow globe. But I definitely would like to finish the Christmas pieces that I have right now before I'm starting anymore, because I have some pretty big Christmas pieces. So that's on like a future wish list. Then Praise of the Pollinators by the Blue Flower. This is their like big sampler that includes a lot of pollinating animals and flowers. And I love it. I think it's so pretty, but not for right now. I definitely think I'm gonna hold off, but I do really, really like that. Not Hoarding by the Primitive Hare. I can't decide if I love this one or if I just like it, like if I actually want to stitch it or not, but I can't imagine it hanging in my craft room, and so I like it for that reason. And then Emma Badman Wadford by Erica Michaels. I am really intrigued by a lot of parts of this sampler, mostly because if you zoom in on the picture, the alphabet is actually trapped in between borders going around the border of the piece. So instead of an alphabet being inside the border of the sampler, the alphabet is part of the border. And I think that's really cool. And I love the motifs at the bottom, but I don't know that I love the quote. So if I purchase that in the future, it's definitely gonna take some tweaking, but I loved the idea of the alphabet inside double borders. I think that's really cool. So that's like on a future list for me as well. So those were all the projects that I either liked or am planning on purchasing. I will definitely give you guys a haul once I'm back from market, and then anything that I have to order that I can't get my hands on when I'm there. But in case you were curious about what I am thinking about picking up, those are them. If I had to pick one that I would like want to start immediately after market, it would probably be the cover image of In Spring by Teresa Kogut. That's like perfectly in season for right now, and I could see that on my wall. So I definitely want that one. So that is everything cross stitch related that I was planning on talking to you guys about today. For the rest of February, my goals are to work on Sarah Moon 1791 today, because today is the full moon. And I work on that project on the full moon with my friends. And then I need to work on finishing the second day of Christmas. And that's pretty much it for the rest of February. And then March will be a whole nother situation once the WIPGO polls are announced. I did not participate in the Pick a Whip prompt for the second half of this month just because focusing on a finish for real comfort kind of screwed me over with some of my other goals because I did focus on it so heavily for the month, but to get that finish in felt really worth it. So if you are intrigued by hearing me talk about the books that I've been reading, now that I've gotten out of my reading slump, definitely stick around. If this is where you leave me, go ahead and let's see, what emoji do we want to use today? Let's just use flowers, any kind of flower emoji. If you made it to this point in the video, you guys know I appreciate you, and I love seeing our little hidden emojis pop up all throughout the comments. So that being said, have a great rest of your February. I hope you had a great Valentine's Day if you celebrated, or if you didn't like me, I hope you just had a great regular Wednesday. And yeah, so let's chat about books now. So like I said, I'm sorry, I've been talking for a while, gotta hydrate. Also, do you guys like my new cup? It's a Brewmate Eras cup. If you are a tumbler girl like I am, and you hate messes, not a drop spilled, and then you just unlock the lid and you're good to go, and it's 100% dishwasher safe. So this is my new emotional support water bottle. I've been an emotional support water bottle girl since I was in high school. I carried a Starbucks cup with me to school every day. So this is not a new trend for me, but anyway, I had to share that one. So, books. I have one book that isn't a book, but is kind of a book, and then a bunch of actual books. So let's get the other one out of the way. This is my newest obsession. This is called Myrtle. Now, Myrtle is a puzzle book. So if you have done Sudokus before, or logic puzzles, or anything like that, this is one of those. But Myrtle's a little bit different. So Myrtle started off as an online puzzle like Wordle, except you're solving a murder using logic clues. And it's a little bit like Clue and Sudoku had a baby. And so every day online at myrtle.com, there is a new puzzle to do. So you can do this for free and try it out before you buy the book. But I loved the online puzzles so much that I did purchase the full puzzle book. So this is what the grids look like here. So you get people, locations, and weapons. And so you're matching the person to the weapon to the location with clues like, you know, so-and-so was not in the Arboretum, and so you put an X there. Or the person who was the tallest of the suspects had a knife. And so that's kind of how you go through and fill out the puzzle to solve the myrtles throughout this. But there's a couple volumes. I have had so much fun filling these out. I will show you one of the super easy puzzles here. It's a little bit of a spoiler. So you get your suspects, your weapons, your locations, and your clues, and then you go through and fill them out. And then you can check yourself in the answer key in the back of the book. And what's really fun about this is that in the descriptions of like the different murders, like the setups, and in the solving, there is a story, like a romance subplot in a puzzle book. And I have just been having so much fun doing one of these before I go to bed every night, sometimes more than one. And if you're someone who enjoys a little bit of a brain teaser or logic puzzles or puzzle books in general, I highly, highly recommend Myrtle. I've been having so much fun. I'm definitely going to pick up the next 2 volumes. And yeah, so that has been my newest obsession. That's kind of a book that I had to share. But aside from that, I finished my Crescent City reread that I was just starting when I talked to you last. So I started off with House of Earth and Blood and House of Sky and Breath. This is my 3rd read through of Earth and Blood and my 2nd read through of Sky and Breath. And without giving too much away, this is one of Sarah J. Maas's series. This is an urban fantasy. And there's a huge revelation at the end of book 2 of this series that changes the way that you read them. And I have always been a huge proponent of rereading Sarah J. Maas books because there's so much that you miss when you don't know to look for it, because she infuses her writing with so many Easter eggs and things that when you're rereading, you see all these clues for these big lead ups that you missed before because you didn't know to look for them, if that makes sense. So I know a lot of people think like the middle of her books are kind of like a slower situation, but there's so much there if you know what you're looking for. And I have to say, rereading book 1 and 2 with the knowledge of the revelation of the end of book 2, I enjoyed my reading experience so much more, and I picked up a lot of things. And then I picked up House of Flame and Shadow. This was the 3rd book in the series that just came out last month, and it's a super highly anticipated read for me. There will be no spoilers here. That being said, I'm a little disappointed with this book. Like, it's still a Sarah J. Maas book. It's still really good. So like, the criticisms aren't that I didn't like it. The criticisms aren't that it's bad. The criticisms just that I was expecting a little bit more, and I thought that the conflict was resolved a little fast. I know a lot of people's complaint with this book is that it didn't involve characters that you thought were going to be in this more. That's not my complaint, because this is a Crescent City book. So I understood that premise, right? I just think that the character development in the main characters wasn't here for me. There were some side character subplots that were just so boring. This book has a lot of perspectives, a lot of POVs that you're flipping between, and some of them you just did not want to be with them. Thinking about a particular Sunball player that was really, really annoying me through this book. I don't love the romance in this one as much as I love other SJM couples, but it was still a solid book. Like, it's still good. There were just a couple things that I didn't love, and I think that's fine. This book also had a lot of pressure on it, so like, that's completely understandable, but it's still worth the read. Definitely, if you are reading it, you need to search the internet and find all of the different bonus chapters, because the bonus chapters have some really fun things in them. This is the Barnes & Noble edition, so this wasn't the most exciting of the bonus chapters, but yeah, that is Flame and Shadow. It is hefty. The Crescent City books all are, but this was a very highly anticipated release, and I'm very excited to see where we go from here. But I just thought that we were building to this huge, huge thing, and I thought that huge, huge thing was just resolved a little too fast. That's my biggest complaint, but like I said, it's still a Sarah J. Maas book. It's still really good. The last 100 pages still are the last 100 pages of an SJM book. Okay, so next, after I finished my SJM read through, I decided to read a book that was going off of my Libby in 3 days, and I needed to read it for my book club, and I couldn't renew it. So that is Lady Tan's Circle of Women. I'm reading this for my grad school friends book club, where we mostly read historical fiction, and this was so incredible. This book was so good. I highly recommend the audio or the physical. I did a little bit of both when I was reading this one. But it follows a woman in 15th century China of more noble birth, and she goes to live with her grandparents, and she trains with her grandmother as a physician. And it's kind of the dichotomy between physicians of that time and midwives, and how they were seen as different but both healing. Her learning her place in her rank in society while also seeing her friends in different places. So there's a little bit of like class consciousness happening throughout the book, but also like recognizing the limitations of women in patriarchal society in every facet. Like, doesn't matter how much money you have, you're still trapped somehow. And the descriptions of healing, there was a murder mystery. The only thing that really kind of got me with this book was there were some pretty vivid descriptions of foot binding, and some of the, like, you still get the reverence and the significance that they put on it, but there were also some of the things that you don't necessarily think about, like the day-to-day cleanliness and care for their feet that these women took. And some of those descriptions, just because of the nature of my trauma with bone breakage and stuff in my body, that really kind of freaked me out a little bit. But this book was just so good. So if you're interested in historical fiction at all, I highly, highly recommend Lady Tan's Circle of Women. It was phenomenal. I loved it. Then I read a short story. I don't normally read short stories, and my friend asked me to read this one, and I did, and I really did kind of enjoy it. It's very short. It's for free on Kindle Unlimited, both as an audiobook and as an ebook. It's only about 30 pages. This is The Six Deaths of the Saint by Alex E. Harrow. This is the third in an anthology of short stories, but you can read them separately. You don't have to read them one after the other. And this, without giving too much away, it follows a woman visited by the god of war, or the saint of war. And it's a very like thinker kind of piece about mortality and futility. And I kind of want to read it again just to see like, and it's narrated by one of my favorite audiobook narrators, so highly recommend that one. But definitely go check it out if you have Kindle Unlimited. I definitely think it's worth your time, and it doesn't hurt to get another book in on Goodreads for the payoff being such a short book. And finally, the last book that I read since I talked to you is another 5-star read. This is Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This is a standalone book in his Cosmere, I don't know, yeah, just Cosmere. Technically number 28, but this was a secret project that he had worked on and finally published after a Kickstarter campaign, I think. But again, it's a standalone, so you don't have to have read his whole universe. I read this one as an introduction to his writing style because I do plan on starting the Cosmere this year and getting myself into it. I think Mistborn is where most people get in. I still need to do my research about starting Brandon Sanderson's fantasy universe. But I loved Tress. Tress follows a girl who loves cups. And same Tress. And she lives on a planet where the sea is made of spores. And so it's kind of like sailing like sand seas a little bit, but the spores are very dangerous. And it's Princess Bride-esque. And the narrator is so sarcastic. So if you're someone who likes like a self-aware narrator narrating a book that isn't the main character, you're gonna really, really love this. There were so many aphorisms about human behavior, and the story was so compelling. So it's like, what if Buttercup became a pirate? Like, what if Buttercup was the Dread Pirate Roberts on her way to rescue Wesley instead of the opposite? And I just loved it. It was such a fun read. It only took me a couple of days, and I highly recommend it if you're someone who's looking to read a little bit more fantasy. I highly recommend the physical reading experience of this one because there are some amazing illustrations that the author worked with an illustrator for. So even if you're reading the audiobook, definitely leaf through the ebook or go leaf through the physical copy at your library or at a bookstore just to get those illustrations, because they really are something else and they do kind of enhance your understanding of the story. But I loved it. It was a great book. So highly recommend Tress of the Emerald Sea if you at all liked The Princess Bride. Yeah, I was able to get this one because I actually went and applied for a non-resident card at the Fort Worth Library. So I actually live outside of Fort Worth in a different city, and I have a library card through them, but the Fort Worth Library has a lot more options than my local library does. And so I just went ahead and paid the non-resident fee and got a library card, and I can now access their entire catalog, both online and in person. So, and all it cost me was a donation to the library, which I'm never gonna see as a bad thing as someone who works in nonprofits and museums and has worked in a lot of libraries. So if you're someone who reads a lot, I highly recommend, and you're in like a metro area, go get the library cards for the surrounding cities. It really does open up a lot of options for books. And yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to say about reading. Now I have moved on to kind of some random reads off of my TBR. Yeah, so now that I have that, I have marked out my March TBR, and I've got a couple books lined up for the plane, for market. And yeah, so I hope that you guys enjoyed the book chat. If you've read any of those or if you have any recommendations, as usual, let me know in the comments down below. I hope you guys have enjoyed this Flosstube. I really miss chatting with you, and today was an exciting one just because there was so much to talk about and so much to go through. And I cannot wait to talk to you when I'm back from market. I'm gonna try and vlog my experience a little bit. Historically, I have not been great about that, so we'll see. But yeah, today was a really fun day chit-chatting cross-stitch with you. And I'm going to go clean up and take some progress pictures and maybe do a little bit of sewing because I haven't done that in a while. So I hope that you guys find time for your hobbies, that you have a great couple of weeks. Happy stitching, happy reading, happy prioritizing you and your hobbies and getting shit done. And I will see you guys in March, probably around my birthday, with some updates about my March focus projects and my March reads and all that good stuff. So happy end of Pink February, guys. Bye. This finish, I'm very... Fraser, did you really bring me a noisy toy in the middle of me talking? I love you, but no. Thank you. Okay.